Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RT News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, Trump threatens Venezuela. So it's only been less than 4 days now. And so it's official now that Trump has, I guess, somewhat going against his initial promises when he ran for president of not really getting involved in foreign affairs. And so as of now, I got 2 articles I want to share with you based upon some things that Trump said today from the UN Assembly in New York, and his new stance on the importance of helping defend the Venezuelan people. So this goes back to yesterday's news update where I proposed a question to you guys of how fast or what do you think the response will be from the United States government? And so Trump has came out and mentioned that it's our goal to help the Venezuelan people and help defend democracy and things like that. So nothing that is too surprising because I already kind of knew it was coming. It's just a matter of now what will be the following actions that we will look to take to help out the Venezuelans to do. But as always, before I dive into today's articles, I want to encourage you to click the subscribe button for more RT News updates, as well as take your time to visit the RTD University, where I discuss more things on rethinking the dollar and why, things such as these threats that go back and forth, and how it impacts the dollar, and more importantly, how it will impact your financial future, being that we're trying to stop governments such as Maduro from vacating the dollar, which ultimately puts us in trouble because we're dependent upon these other people using our national currency, which gives us the pedestal that we've been living on for the last, several decades. So let's dive into today's news. All right, so we're back at it. I have 3 articles actually that I want to share with you. But first, before I actually get into the articles, I want to play this clip for you based upon the speech that President Trump gave after winning the election.
At the same time, we will pursue a new foreign policy that finally learns from the mistakes of the past. We will stop looking to topple regimes. We will stop looking to topple regimes and overthrow governments, folks. Remember, $6 trillion, $6 trillion in the Middle East. $6 trillion. Our goal is stability, not chaos, because we want to rebuild our country. It's time. It's time.
Now, what's changed since that time? You might wonder, nothing's really changed except the fact that Venezuela, amongst a lot of other nations, have chosen to diversify their monetary dealings predominantly in using the dollar. So now it looks like, what's happening in Venezuela is of importance and it is a major crisis, but not really, pointing to the fact that what's happening in Venezuela has been happening for well over a decade under 2 different regimes of Maduro as well as under former President Hugo Chavez from years prior. And so since that time, it's been 8 months or actually 9 months since President Trump has been in the White House. And so I guess, it's of importance now to really go down to Venezuela and help those people out, even though they've been having these type of problems for quite a while now. But I guess, the good Samaritan of us must go down there and save Venezuela from the dictatorship of socialism and all the things that I'm going to share with you via this article. And so here's another clip from today's UN speech on how important it is now to free the Venezuelan people from President Maduro, who is, I guess, causing major disruptions and harm for his people because he's starving them, according to what Trump is saying. So here, check this out.
Crisis in Venezuela. The socialist dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro has inflicted terrible misery and suffering on the good people of that country. The Venezuelan people are starving, and their country is collapsing. Their democratic institutions are being destroyed. The situation is completely unacceptable. The United States has taken important steps to hold the regime accountable. We are prepared to take further action if the government of Venezuela persists on the path to imposing authoritarian rule on the Venezuelan people. We call for the full restoration of democracy and political freedoms in Venezuela, and we want it to happen very, very soon.
So there you have it, a complete flip-flop. We have President Trump, before he became president, mentioned about how it's important to not concern ourselves with regime change as well as toppling governments. And then 9 months later, a couple things happened in between, predominantly surrounding the dollar being priced, oil being priced in a dollar out of Venezuela, and just I guess the fact that they've been starving for quite a while now. It's nothing new, but I guess it's time for us to go help them out now, try to rally the troops now to present ourselves as the knight in shining armor to go down to Venezuela and help them out. So I want to get into a couple articles briefly, and it has to do with just some of the things recently that's transpired since yesterday for the most part, dealing with some of the things that President Trump has stated. Let's dive into the first article here. And it is from the Miami Herald. As of today, it says Trump threatens Venezuela and puts Cuba on notice. So Cuba is another one that is not, playing by the rules. So we have to go, free the Cuban people as well, I guess. Then the next one here is from Washington Examiner. It says Trump, Venezuela in crisis because socialism has been faithfully implemented. And then the very next one here is from Politico. And it says Trump says U.S. prepared to take further action in Venezuela. So I want to just go over the first one and then just read a couple of things I highlighted. But more importantly, if you're interested in finding out more about this, of course, never, believe just what's on the surface. Always dive in deeper for yourself so that you can understand what's really going on and how the dollar or the Federal Reserve note plays a role in every single event that the United States government and our military is involved in some way or another. So given an idea what's going on here, just to quote it here, it says, this President Trump says, we cannot stand by and watch. Trump told world leaders gather at the UN. He's going on a little bit more. He says, I ask every country represented here, quoting Trump, President Trump, to be prepared to do more to address this very real crisis, Trump said. We call for the restoration of democracy and political freedoms in Venezuela. The problem in Venezuela is not the socialism has been poorly implemented, but the socialism has been faithfully implemented. And another quote says, this corrupt regime, another thing is how we throw the word regime out like it's, we're passing judgment upon other, elected officials, other governments that's responsible for handling their own internal affairs, but because it's not in our favor or it's not what we would like, we call people, label them as regimes. And it says this corrupt regime destroyed a prosperous nation by imposing a failed ideology that has produced poverty, misery everywhere it has landed. It has tried, Trump said. Venezuelan leaders slammed this speech. It says Foreign Minister Jorge Arreza accused the United States of seeking a change of regime by force. It says Trump pretends to rule the world, but does not even rule his own country, Arreza told reporters in New York after the speech. This happened a couple hours ago. Then it goes on to give you more insight into, some of the affairs between Venezuela and the United States and how, Hugo Chavez was mocked, and goes on to talk about Cuba and crisis down there. But most importantly is all of a sudden this important need to defend democracy and help free the Venezuelan people, which is what I'm trying to bring attention to right now. Then the next one here is from the Examiner. It says Trump, Venezuela in crisis because socialism has been faithfully implemented. And then it goes down, it gives you actually what he said if you want to find out more for yourself. It says United States has taken important steps to hold the regime accountable. We are prepared to take further action if the government of Venezuela persists on its path to impose authoritarian rule over the Venezuelan people. So just, to give you a little insight of what's going on and how this all plays into the idea of, the United States once again decided to get involved and get entangled in foreign affairs, of which at this point we kind of have to, because those foreign affairs all have to do with the Federal Reserve note or the dollar being removed from daily transactions, or being removed from pricing world commodities such as oil. And so that is a threat to our national security, because it's in our best interest to make sure that we defend the Federal Reserve note so that we can continue to do the things that we do here as a country, whether it's right or wrong. That's for you to judge. But but the question is, who are we to judge actions happening in Venezuela? Definitely, I'm sure things are not what the Venezuelan people would want all the way around, but yet what gives us the right to go into that country and to dictate and to tell them what we believe is best for them, and that we're going to use our military, our men and women who serve in our military, to protect our borders. We're going to go over there to help remove a gentleman that put in power, right or wrong. That's the Venezuelan people's concern, as well as if the world chooses to get involved and to come to a conclusion on how to handle that, that's fine. But the biggest problem is the fact that we here in the United States tend to force our will upon other people, and it looks like the world's tired of it. And so they are taking actions such as removing the dollar from oil pricing. And so the question is, with what's happening out in China and Russia, with the whole economic developments they're having over there, and the fact that they are and have been and will continue to begin pricing oil futures contracts, as well as trade amongst themselves, as well as the development of different banking hubs throughout the world through the AIIB, to begin positioning the yuan, the Chinese yuan, in favor of people using it to do trade amongst themselves, as well as promoting using their own local currencies. So then and there's a problem, because we can't go around, bombing every single country that does things such as Maduro. But because Venezuela is a small country, it's in an area where there's not much military might, not much military force. We once again are in a position where we are probably going to get entangled in the Venezuelan, crisis, if you want to call it that, just because we're all about defending the dollar and keeping the petrodollar system in place as long as we can. And so that's just what's happening in the news today. Wanted to definitely get that out to you guys so you can get a chance to see what's going on and how this does involve you, because it's in regards to our national currency. And as things continue to unfold, and like the picture says here, when there's smoke, there's definitely fire. So right now the dollar is under fire, and so it's only going to get worse from here. But other than that, love to hear your thoughts on this presentation. Definitely look forward to bringing you more news quickly. Enjoy your day.
The socialist dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro has inflicted terrible pain and suffering on the good people of that country. This corrupt regime destroyed a prosperous nation by imposing a failed ideology that has produced poverty and misery everywhere it has been tried. To make matters worse, Maduro has defied his own people, stealing power from their elected representatives to preserve his disastrous rule. The Venezuelan people are starving, and their country is collapsing. Their democratic institutions are being destroyed. This situation is completely unacceptable, and we cannot stand by and watch. As a responsible neighbor and friend, we and all others have a goal. That goal is to help them regain their freedom, recover their country, and restore their democracy.